The more you ask if you're ready, the more I'll find things that I'm not ready with. There you go. Ready,
Okay.
steady, Freddy.
3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to Not Us Podcast, hosted by two sisters, myself, Angela, and my gorgeous sister, Sam, where we talk about change and choice, and we celebrate all the messy bits in between.
We're not licensed doctors, therapists, gurus, or witches. The stories and opinions expressed in this episode are our own, for entertainment only, and subjected to change. Swearing is possible, and remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Sis, I had to read that this time. Today I had to read it. Welcome to episode 22.
Really? That many?
Yeah.
Wow.
Today is episode 22. And today we're going to change it up a little bit. Let's speak about the things that we're consuming, not through our mouth, but through our eyes, ears, and the other senses.
That was very poetic and dramatic. Through our eyes, ears, and all of our senses.
Keep saying it. Your DNA runs strongly through me.
Oh my gosh, yes. So, what are you consuming at the moment, sis? Watching,
Well,
filling your life with. Let's start with some genre because, it's broad.
let's kick off the conversation with we're currently watching Married at First Sight, Australia. We're on different episodes. So, our usual debrief of an episode is not happening because I'm way ahead.
Because you skipped ahead. You snuck in with the Australians and left me behind with the Brits.
That's right. I did do that.
It's been really a traumatic season. I don't know why we watch it, because it is nothing but trauma all the time.
Well, why do you watch it?
Because it's like watching a car crash. You just actually cannot believe what you're seeing. Look, there's always a little pearl of something lovely. And I do find with MAFS is that even though, particularly this season, the women, oh my God, have been so badly behaved, it still allows you to look at yourself and your life and question the things, certainly for me, that I say or do that may come across as being like a mean girl or something like that. I don't classify myself as a mean girl, but it's all in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? And all in the eye of how the camera edits it.
Look, the camera can only edit what is there. So if you're not behaving in a certain manner, you can't be edited in a bad light.
True.
You have to provide the material for it to be edited in a certain way. I have only watched Married at First Sight maybe the last 2 or 3 years. I never watched it before. I was like, oh, okay, don't understand the concept. Why would you want to watch? Like, why would you want to marry a total stranger? And why would you want to watch total strangers getting married? But then I watched season 10 of Australia, and oh boy, I was hooked. Just because, one, why would you marry a total stranger?
Many people do. There are
Well,
marriages.
there are arranged marriages, but I think, for an independent woman like myself, the concept was quite strange. And then as a cynic, you kind of think, oh, come on, where would you find love under those conditions? But then to watch people navigate new relationships in this experiment with tasks and all of these really strange dynamics and everything being condensed into quite a short period, it does really give you a very good viewpoint of how people operate.
Lots of people.
And I know that you like to think that I know that you like to think that we are above.
Not
all
above.
Of this.
Not above. Just maybe marginally more stable than some of the characters.
So let me ask you a question. Do you think you could ever do a reality TV show? And if the answer is yes, which one would you be able to do?
I mean, maths might be an option like that, potentially, because that would just be an interesting human experience. Where I think I'd fail miserably is if I was dealing with some of the mean girls that we've had on this episode. You would see the full Scorpio extent of me coming out, and I don't know that I could come back from it ever. I'd like to think that I would be very centered and grounded, like Stella on this one, and just
Uh-huh.
really staying in my lane. But if I had to watch the likes of Beck behave the way she did, I feel like the South African in me would come out and have to actually remove someone from the room by an ear.
Right.
So I don't think that I am a suitable candidate for reality TV.
Well, I certainly wouldn't do well on MAFS. I mean, can you imagine? First of all, what would my vows be like? Dear total stranger, I did not apply to be here. My sister auditioned me, and I'm standing here against my own free will.
She shoved me in this white dress.
She showed me in this white dress. I'm under lock and key, and my life is this is under duress. I am here under duress. No, I don't think I would do a dating show. I always said that if I was on Survivor, I would be voted out first because lack of food, lack of comfortable sleeping quarters, lack of hygiene, I would be an absolute nightmare. So I might make for good TV because
Great
I would be
TV.
having just meltdown after meltdown after meltdown. So Bex on MAFS for this season might look like an angel compared to the crazy that I would be performing. I have always said that I would do Amazing Race, but only with you, because with my partner at the time, I would have just been that person that was constantly screaming at their partner, saying, "Do better." I would never willingly do reality TV because I think it would make for car crash TV. It would do nothing for my mental and emotional well-being.
You may never get a job again. Or otherwise, you could just work that circuit. You know, the worst behaved ones make such good TV. They get onto Love Island, and before you know it, they are basically on every single reality TV series there is.
Well, sis, the other side could be that I could be quite boring because maybe I'm just an angel.
Sorry, are those violins in the background?
Yes. She's just so wonderful. So, yes, I don't think I'm made for reality TV. I wouldn't willingly do reality TV. And I think there's a particular kind of psychology for anyone who's willing to put themselves in that format, don't you think? I mean, as an actress and an entertainer, isn't it easier to rather perform and have scripts than being yourself? Because I think
Oh,
being yourself on camera must be incredibly tough.
yeah. Well, I suppose it depends how comfortable you are with yourself. But it is interesting for me because on something like MAFS, when they start, the characters, some of them you're like, oh, they're so lovely. By the end, you have a completely different opinion of them. Now, either that's really great editing, or that process and that kind of high intensity situation can really bring out the shadow side of our personalities in incredible ways. I suppose so for any of us. I mean, I do sometimes think if there was a camera on in my house and I was in a high pressure situation, as you've seen me, and that was all the world got to see of me, I might not come across the way people think I am, sweet and angelic.
Uh-huh. I mean, you know what my viewpoint is on that, is that you lead with that, but that's not the whole picture.
Oh my gosh. Okay, but to answer your question, I do think it's easy, or it has certainly been easier for me to play a character because you know what the outcome is that you want. Like you've set your sights on a storyline and you just follow the storyline to the end. So I suppose on reality TV, if you decide what your storyline is going to be really clearly and you're unmoved by that, then you might stand a chance. The crazy thing, though, for all of us when we're watching reality TV or any kind of storytelling situation is how lost we get in it. I remember years ago, I did a series on national television called 37 Honey Street, and I was playing the less likable character. I was married to this one guy, and then I ended up having an affair with my neighbor. Also happened to be the first multiracial love scene on South African television, so it was a really cool exercise to do. However, I remember my grandmother watching this series and phoning her the day after the episode had come out where I had cheated on my husband, and her saying to me, "I know it's not really you, but how can you do that to your husband?" And she went off at me like there was just no separation. Or I'd go into the Woolies or whatever the store was, on one of the other series that I did, and the teller would be like, "Do you know where that person is?" Or they would really get invested. We get so invested even though we know it's not completely real, and that's the power of storytelling. Whether you're playing yourself or someone is editing you to tell the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really interesting how we get lost in that story as humans.
So how invested do you get in what you're consuming?
I think I try and moderate what I consume so that it's palatable for me because I'm so sensitive. If I get too deeply into things, it doesn't end when I've finished watching it there. I really do carry it through. Like if I'm watching something like MAFS before I go to sleep, it definitely affects my dream state and how rested I feel in the morning. So there's certain things that I've tried watching, like there's one of the monster series. I can't remember now what the name is, but it's basically the psycho thriller that all the big famous psycho thrillers are based on. And I can't watch horror as a whole because it sits within my psyche in such an intense way. And I had to stop watching after 3 or 4 episodes. It's too much. It was really making me feel unwell. It was just so horrible. So I do try and, depending on what space I'm in or what's going on in my life, I make sure that what I'm watching supports that. And so especially if I'm like dealing with health issues or if it's a really tough time, I'll try and really watch comedy or things that will be light and nurturing. If things are a little quieter in my world, then I can hit the slightly more toxic.
So if life is going well, you need a little bit of drama to balance you out.
Oh, therapy session waiting to happen.
The monster series that you were speaking about is Monster, the Ed Gein story.
Again, yes.
I just had a quick look. That was pretty intense, actually, that particular series.
Yeah.
I've always been a horror fan, but I have found as I've matured in life, I have less of a tolerance for gruesome content. I need to make sure that my life has a little bit more rainbows and butterflies in it than, Dungeons and Dragons. And I don't mean the game, but I'm just saying like the more of the darker stuff. Yeah. So with me, even like with MAFS, I've got to check their social media, check when they were born. There's one particular cast member, Scott, who he's partnered with a interesting woman who claims to be a girl's girl, but I think I would have a very difficult time with her around a dinner table.
Yeah.
In terms of her conduct. But anyway, I needed to see what Scott is. So soft. He's so watery. It's like, what star sign is this guy? I trolled. I went all the way down to see when his birthday was. I must have gone back to 2022. Anyway, truth be told, he is a water sign. He is a Cancer. And I was like, oh, that just explains it all.
Didn't stand
That's why he's so emotional and so soft and loyal and,
all of that.
loyal to the red flag.
And then, of course, my sister phones me in the middle of the day to ask me random questions about MAFS. Do you think this person is this? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not there yet. Check because I've been checking out their socials. So you really get into it. That's
No,
right.
but it's not only that. It's like, I mean, as I said earlier on, you have to provide the footage. Yes, there's ways of slicing and dicing, but you have to provide some of the footage. And then you look at the conduct and you think to yourself, we all have stuff in the closet, right? So you know what your history is. If you know that you have a checkered history, why would you go on television where people are going to be able to research you and form opinion on you? I just find it really fascinating. And then I found my sister, serious question. I know that you're busy. I just want to get your opinion on something. I've been thinking about cast member, whatever. Do you think then it'll be like something? And Angela's like, well, there are indications that would suggest that.
Without calling the woman a hooker.
I mean, I was trying to like not disclose what the question was because we do not judge on this podcast.
No. We're just trying to understand her storyline.
We listen, we observe, we do not judge.
Never.
The fuck we don't. Okay, so MAFS is what we're both currently consuming. I am dying to have the conversations with my sister, but she is a little bit behind because she is watching it on British television and I have followed it on the Australian channels.
Well, I'm just on
Sorry.
so much, you get so invested in the series eventually. So I found now, like with Mel's passing, who, for those of you who don't know Matt, she's one of the experts. I felt really impacted by that. And I don't always, but I think because you're seeing the experts in such they're really themselves on the series. And so, you also then invest in their stories and their families. So with her passing and the episodes are still running with her in, I found it really, really heartbreaking and sad. So they do have an incredible way of taking us along the journey. I mean, one of my favorite series when I moved to the UK was and is Gogglebox. I don't know if you've ever watched Gogglebox.
Gogglebox. Love Gogglebox.
Gogglebox is basically, it's very Big Brother-ish. It's us watching people in their television rooms watching television. And so you get little bites of what's coming up that week, but you're watching it through the eyes of the couples or the people who are watching. It's so brilliant. I can just watch and devour it for hours. So reality TV is definitely taken off much more. I think, was it Big Brother that started the whole trend?
I think it was Big Brother.
So what is interesting is I did a little search to find out how much time we consume on television. I don't know if you've had a look at those numbers at all, but certainly in the UK, it depends on your age demographic. But generally speaking, people spend about 4.5 hours a day watching television. So if you think of like anything that you're putting into your world for that amount of time, it's quite significant impact on your life. And I always end up wondering, when is it enough? Are we able to self-moderate, or is it is the word right?
Regulate.
Self-regulate and go, okay, enough. I need to stop now. People seem to be able to do it for their children or for others, but for ourselves, like, I always wonder, like, do we have the skills to be able to do that? Or is there, is that up to the people putting the television programs out to pop in adverts to say, hey, are you addicted to MAFS? Get up and have a body break.
Yeah. I think we are less capable of doing that. And that's why sometimes we'll binge watch. And I know that if I've binge watched anything, I feel so exhausted and like gross just because you have vegged for a number of hours. I don't watch television, like live TV. I don't watch. I stream everything. So for the purpose of your 4.5 hours, we'll assume that streaming is in that time frame. Even still, I don't think I'm doing 4.5 hours a day. I'm probably maybe an hour and a half. I get quite bored. So for me, it's one episode and then I'm like tapped out. Like, I can't do this. But I consume a lot of YouTube. I consume a lot of Instagram, and that's where I spend a lot of my mental and emotional consumption is through those mediums. And at least once or twice a year, I'll do a social media, which I include YouTube into that category. I'll do a detox just in terms of making sure that my dopamine gets a reset, because that short format content, I think, is what contributes to people feeling depressed or you needing to consume more because it's a quick hit. And so you have to consume more of it and more and more and more of it. And this is why I didn't want us to be on TikTok, because I said to Angela, it's like a drug for me. But I have to say that I have been a little bit better with TikTok, but it's the damn Instagram and the YouTube. It's like not
Sometimes
good.
I love it, but sometimes I just find it exhausting. I mean, we have to put
Yeah.
content out and stuff, but once the novelty wears off, it can be quite a bottomless pit. But before we go on to social media, can I tell you something that's really interesting? Back on the television, in the television world, do you know what the top 3 globally watched series have of all time are? It's
Su-
really interesting. Take a guess.
Survivor?
Nope.
No. Big Brother?
Nope. Not only reality TV, just series in general.
Oh, Dallas?
Surprisingly not. I also thought about Dallas. The number 1 of all time is Baywatch. Interesting then, though. Next on that is Squid Games is second, and third to that is Bridgerton. So varied. Don't hate on Bridgerton. I love me a bit of Bridgerton. It's the romantic. I just thought that was fascinating. I haven't watched Squid Games, and we grew up with Baywatch, but amazingly, it's still number 1.
Yeah. How fascinating. But I suppose it's where it's still consumed, because this would be reruns of it.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
quite sure of the
Well, of
numbers.
all time.
That is
Okay.
the most viewed. Anyway, back to social media.
No, no, no. I'm not back to social media. The comment that I wanted to make about reality is often we say it's trash TV. But I
Yeah.
think why it's so popular is because we can relate to the content that we're watching. So when we're watching Gogglebox, we all know that sitting with our partners or our friends or whoever it is, we're making the same kind of commentary. So it's fascinating to watch how other people are consuming the same content that we're consuming and the commentary that they're making. Married at First Sight, yeah, we've all dated or we've been in dating or we're in relationships or want to be in relationships. So we can kind of relate and then also assume that we would behave better. But given the context and the tasks and the setup, you're away from your normal life, you with this total stranger that you've just met, going on honeymoon, then moving in together, then having to do like these various tasks, and you with other cast members, also people you've just met.
Mm.
It's very easy to assume that you would show up differently and show up better. But I think in the back of most of our minds, we kind of admire them, but also like admire their vulnerability and their bravery in terms of being that stupid to actually go on the show.
Well, that's the
But
role.
then question yourself in terms of would you do any better?
Yeah. So that poses the question, what is one thing that you have learned from watching this season of MAFS?
Well, besides the fact that you and I should never be at a dinner table with girls that think they're girls and are like throwing girls under the bus.
Maybe.
Well, it would be a case of who's the bigger bitch out of the two of us. That would be the situation.
As we said, orange is not our color. Prison is not for us.
In defending the defenseless, we
Yeah.
took out the bullies by being a bigger bully. Well, I think it's interesting for me when watching Married at First Sight, just in terms of how the younger generation of women have taken previous challenges or challenges that women have had, maybe of being underrepresented, not having a voice, etc., and flip that. But in the editing, sometimes it can come across as quite hard and almost having no gray space
Mhm.
for people to show up as they are and trying to figure out, like, how do we get through the baggage that we all bring into relationships. And I think that sometimes, and again, this is down to editing, and particularly this season, the girls have really shown up quite disturbingly ugly.
Phew.
You know, they've shown up as quite black and white, wanting princess treatments, and I'm all for princess treatment, but I do think relationships are give and take, and we as partners, we come in slightly damaged. And your partner is your mirror. You can only heal in relationships when you are in a relationship. You can't do that healing outside of a relationship. Yes, you can do your personal healing and
Yeah.
who you want to be as a better person and what you want to work on, etc. But within relationship, you have to be in relation. And so for most of these people that go on this show, they've had bad relationships, or they haven't been able to be in relationship, or they've had short-term relationships. And for some of them, just seeing how they show up and you go, wow, there's like no space for understanding, compassion. And I think you still have to have boundaries. Yes, I believe that you have to have boundaries, but how do you honor your boundaries and then allow other people to also show up and to work through things together? And it's just, yeah, I mean, as the season progresses, you'll understand what I'm speaking about. It's just wild to
Haunting.
see, yeah, just how mean women can be actually, and how like hard we can be. And it's sad to see actually. So I hope for myself that I would be able to find a balance between boundary and allowing for compassion and understanding. We will know one day, but currently I don't have that answer. But maybe it's just something to like bring into my own awareness.
Yeah. Just one point that comes to mind as you say that is how powerful women are. We are creators. And so we get to choose if we want to create carnage or if we want to create something beautiful in the world. And so very often watching different women, like in this episode, show up in different ways, you can see just how powerful we really are, depending on how we're applying ourselves in the world. That's always really loud when you watch reality TV. And that doesn't mean you have to be perfect. It's just how you respond to what life gives you the whole time. So for me on MAFS this time, I always learn something from MAFS, like in those pauses between cursing and swearing. And on this episode, it's hysterical because Nathan and I watch it together. He can't watch the behavior, so he listens, but doom scrolls on his phone instead to try and get away from MAFS, but then still insists on watching it. I'm fixated because I like to watch all of the emotional journey and what everyone, this slant, this look that someone else is giving this person. So I want to unpack the human side. But I do come away with, certainly like last night, seeing how in relationships, how we can deflect because we don't want to address our own stuff. So, you know, how you lash out at people around you, or you can be jealous by other people's relationship, or try and find fault with other people, any of those things, just because you're avoiding addressing what's in your own world. So that's something that always gives me like, okay, let me make sure that I'm inward focused, because then you have a lot more allowance and expansion for people around you. And I think also what's interesting for me is how judgy we can be in terms of what we get given. So we say to the universe, I want this partner, and they need to be like this, 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 and this. That's it. And it's good to know what you desire, because that's part of creation. But good luck finding every single thing that's perfect without finding something that could niggle you. Because as you say, this is where we grow the most, is when you're in relation with another human. And so it's often fascinating for me as soon as people start dropping their walls and barriers on MAFS and dropping their unrealistic expectation, how much the world expands for them. And whether they stay together or not, they're able to explore more. They're able to try new things, and they're able to get to know their partner better without like what's wrong about them. I get really irritated actually nowadays when people start throwing the word red flag around like randomly. And if you want to flip and see a red flag, the whole world's going to be a red flag. You wouldn't step out your door there. But actually, yes, you've got to be observing those. But how about looking for the green flags as well and making sure that there's, a decent balance? But can someone please start talking about, I don't know, maybe there's no colors. Are we going to have amber flags at some point in time?
You do have amber flags. It's red, amber, green.
Well, then can we have the whole rainbow? Where are the purple flags?
I mean, you can make it a purple flag if you want. What would purple flag represent for you?
Well, it feels like a
An
cliche.
healing
Every
opportunity.
time. Oh, a red flag. But is it? Or is it your own shit you haven't dealt with that's reflecting, and that's why it's a red flag for you?
We are taking this conversation into a very different direction. This was going to be lights and what are you consuming? But it comes back to just the bullshit stories that we allow and that have become mainstream. Something either doesn't work for you or it does. And stop piling up the flags. Like, if you're not interested, then move on. Like, say, this is not for me. Thanks very much. And we're not speaking about MAFS because, well, if both of you don't decide to leave, then you have to stay. I think we've become so much more aware of psychology that we all think we are therapists.
Mm-hmm.
And just to have a normal conversation, I mean, can you imagine like the conversations that we have today, 20 years ago? He's a walking red flag, or she's a walking red flag, or this is a red flag and that's a green flag. Like, what? Come on.
I have a sausage dog that's desperately trying to come and join this podcast.
Hello, Zusi.
Come say hello. My sausage dog, for those of you who's watching, he's also called a Dash, and has just hopped on to say hello. Hello, everyone. But sis, it's exactly that. We've gone from what came up in this episode was the woke culture. The one couple was like, they don't want to be around anyone woke. And of course, that's become another catchphrase that's all over television now. So like, what does that mean? Does that mean you're aware? And so now suddenly we're all so woke that we can't call people on their bullshit anymore. So instead of saying, this is a red flag, this is what that person does makes me really uncomfortable. It's just like we find all these catchphrases like the term woke. I'm wondering what the next one will be.
Well, I mean, in terms of the word woke, if we are really aware, then I think we would be more compassionate.
Yeah. Living consciously.
Living consciously means that you are aware that you are a human being going through an experience, hopefully for the first time. And so you're doing your very best. We're not sitting with that clipboard going, oh, you said that word, you did this. Like, get a fucking grip.
Red flag.
Please swear, because I can't be the only one swearing. Because we know that out of the two of us, you have more of a potty mouth than me.
This is true.
Okay, sis. Let's move along. So besides MAFS, which we are both watching, what else are you consuming? What other series are you watching to make up the 4.5 hours?
Oh, I don't do 4.5 hours. I also can't do that much TV. My body gets sore, but I make it count. So we have been through all of the Yellowstone and all of the other, the surrounding bits, which was wonderful. Sometimes a little bit on the edge in terms of as much violence as I can
tolerate.
Yeah. And Landman. So loving all of that. And Landman's a bit lighter because there's a lot more humor and you don't literally think at every given moment in time something catastrophic is going to happen. But then next to that, Shrinking and Ted Lasso, really love those. Didn't think I would love those, but the stories that come away from that are very thrilling for me. But I think maybe My maybe it's one or two of my favorite series of all time would be Schitt's Creek.
Okay.
I have Schitt's Creek
But
just because.
the question was, what are you consuming? Not what have you consumed
Oh
in
no,
your
so
entire life.
this is part of it. So if I'm feeling like I don't know what else to watch and I'm feeling a bit like the world is feeling a bit heavy, I'll just slap on Schitt's Creek because it just makes me happy right away.
Okay.
The same way like Friends does. But so those are the main ones for me. Yeah, there's just not enough hours in my day to do loads of things in one go. So there's so much good stuff out there that's thought provoking and challenging and questioning. But I just,
She will make time to watch Bridgerton.
I know I did.
Mm-hmm.
And you? What are you
Well, I
consuming?
stopped watching that at season 4.
No, this last one was lovely.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm over it. It's like, was it Highlander with
Oh yeah,
Jamie?
yeah.
I got to like season 5 and I was like, done. I'm like, okay, this needs to wrap up. But I do like Landman. Loved. Watch that. I also like Mayor of Kingston. So it's that Taylor Sheridan. I like all of his stuff. One, because he writes like, well, they produce really good characters. But then I also love the fact that there's always context. So if we're looking at Landman, you get a lot of insight and information into the oil fields and that ecosystem. Yellowstone, you got to see the ecosystem of, was it Montana and bean ranches and that kind of stuff. So I really enjoy the context of where these characters are. In addition to MAFS, I also watch some of the Housewives. So Beverly Hills, Salt Lake, again, woman acting just diabolical. But again, would I be any better? But then Sunday is my documentary day. So
Mm.
I do enjoy a documentary on anything. It could be normally about people. I'm interested in people and their psychology. So whether that is fitness or politician or some unsolved mystery, I really enjoy that as well.
I just
Yeah.
started watching the death and life of Lamar,
Odom.
which I've only just watched the first month, but also really, really interesting, considering there was a time that you and I were Kardashian obsessed. We watched all of those. In fact, our mother and all of us are assigned one of the Kardashians' names.
Guess which one Angela chose. Who would Angela be?
I don't know. Put it in the chat.
You know, let's think about it. She's all main character. She's a main character energy, isn't she?
She's a leading lady in her own life.
In her own life.
Yes, but
Do you want to disclose who you think you would be if
no, I
out
can
of the
think,
3
I can
sisters?
think.
Because we know that I'm not the one who is making soft.
And I am.
We might, well, now I was going to say we might need to cut that up, but now that you said it, and I am, well,
You see, someone could edit that and go, "Oh, she is."
how good are you at watching movies?
I can really get into them, but there needs to be a good reason for me to watch them, just because of the time that it's going to take out of my day. So it's quite conscious. That is a planned activity. It's not just a once-off activity, So it's like, okay, let's watch a movie today, and then
Yeah.
we'll do that, and then it'll need to be bookended by some MAFS or something else just to.
Okay.
But yeah.
I can't do a movie at home.
Okay.
It's too long a period for me to sit, even though it might be an hour and a half. So if I'm going to watch a movie, because I'm normally on my phone, so even maths and stuff, I'm on my phone, sometimes on my phone and a laptop, really bad. But if I want to like really be immersed, then I have to go to the theater, like the movie theater.
The movie house.
Or the film theater, or whatever it is that you call it.
Cinema.
Movies. The movies in South Africa, the cinema somewhere else.
Asleep. If you're Afrikaans.
Sis, to wrap up, what 3 books would you recommend? How big are you as a reader?
I like reading. I'm particularly fond, other than all of my spiritual books, or at least philosophy and spirituality and self-development and all of those books, which like yours flood my bookcase. I actually quite like some of the Asian books and in fact movies as well. So one of my favorites of all time is Memoirs of a Geisha. Maybe that's because I've had a couple of past lives as a geisha. So that one I just completely, by the time I got to the end of it, I remember sitting in my garden in the sun in winter in South Africa and crying, like, as we say in South Africa, snot and trana, snot and tears.
Mucus and tears.
Yes, ugly crying at the end of that. So Memoirs of a Geisha is one of my favorites. I'm trying to think the ones I should have. Okay, give me one of yours, and then I'll think of my next one.
If you love Asian love stories, one of my favorite Netflix series is Mr. Sunshine. It's Korean, set in 18 something, whatever. Such a beautiful love story. Loved it, Mr. Sunshine. Favorite books. Malcolm Gladwell's Talking to Strangers is one of my favorite books. Different stories, challenging biases or our conscious biases, and each chapter is a different story where he demonstrates how bias has played up. I love autobiographies, and one of my favorite autobiographies is that of Gia, who was the first supermodel, and Angelina Jolie played her in one of her movies. I think she might have got a Golden Globe nominee for her portrayal of Gia, who was a gay model and died of AIDS, actually. I read a lot of spiritual books, a lot of autobiography. You can see I've got Custer Semenya up there. And then I'd say Rachel Weeping, actually, is a really good book by our cousin, Brett. Was one of his first novels, really interesting and deep book. So those would be my 3. Gia, autobiography, Malcolm Gladwell, Talking to Strangers, and Rachel's Weeping by Brett Michael Innes.
Lovely. Another beautiful autobiography is, have you ever read Sharon Stone's? Sharon Osbourne, sorry, Sharon Osbourne's. No. It's so good. Really good one. I mean, I should have checked what's on my book stand right there is it's a great book for the LGBTQ plus community called The Black Flamingo. It's a really, really good book. I actually ended up sending the author a message on Instagram just to tell him how much I loved it. And he responded, it's fine. Dean Utter, The Black Flamingo. I highly recommend that as well. But there's so many. It's like it's such a difficult question to answer because also different times in your life. You know, if I think of all of the amazing spiritual books, there's so many. So many. We should pop a few more in the chat, sis, after we put this episode out.
We will not do that. But good recommendation. Okay, sis. Well, all I'm going to say is enjoy the next couple of episodes of MAFS. When you want to debrief, just give me a call. I will cast my mind back to the episode because I've had to hold myself back to not reveal anything, not to have the conversations that we normally have about whatever transpired on.
I will teach you not to jump ahead. This is your lesson. What did you learn during MAFS Australia? Don't watch ahead of my sister.
Consume with caution.
Please let us know in the chat or somewhere on our platforms what you are watching at the moment or consuming, and send us your recommendations.
Well, what we consume weekly, once a week, is our tequila.
Day drinking, that's what it is. It's just an excuse to day drink.
Cheers to another episode.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening. Email us with comments, suggestions, feedback at notuspodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And you can listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and watch us on YouTube. Until
Amazing.
next week, have a
Bye.
great week. Bye.
Becky, can we say goodbye? Bye.